In this video, I'm going to give you a tour of the Very Health community called the RecoVERY community that's hosted on Circle. Hi, my name is Bree Lever, and I'm an online community strategist. I partner with clients all the time to create thriving communities and launch them in centralized online homes. So for this community, we chose to build it in Circle based on the needs that the client had. And I'm going to give you a little tour of some of the design and architecture of this community. But this is a great example of a brand community. So it's a community that is supporting customers, and in their instance, clients who are paying for additional products and services, but it functions as a way to connect clients to each other in a way that creates valuable experiences and exchanges within the online space. So let's dive in. So first, a little bit about the company. Very Health is a new company helping people overcome disordered eating patterns and eating disorders. They work one-on-one with clients, and the community is a dedicated space where right now it's just open to their clients, but over time, they want to open up the space to non-clients to have an affordable option for accessing practitioners and getting care, even if they're not a one-on-one client. So here you have the Very Health website. You can learn more about their mission and their organization. I had the privilege of working with Dr. Erin Knopf and her husband, who's on the team as well. But let's dive into the community here. So we're going to show some of the design choices that we made over here on the left. So Circle has this awesome aggregated home feed that summarizes posts from any spaces where that member belongs. And then you have right at the top, really accessible, you can connect with other members, see which events are coming up, as well as any courses. So one of the things we discussed with this client was, because this community is helping people overcome eating disorders and disordered eating, there's a lot of training that happens in client one-on-ones with how members and teaching members how to interact with each other in this community. One of the things we discussed in the long term was adding like a 30-day course to help get people oriented in the community, but also get them onboarded to some of the behavioral practices within the community, because there are certain things, certain expectations in the community that you wouldn't necessarily know right off the bat. Like, for example, even though this community is a trigger-free space, we don't claim that this community is a trigger-free space. We ask members to not use any numbers, because that can be triggering for people who have struggled with an eating disorder. So things like that, kind of ways that you can frame your journey are really important, so that we're not, as people progress along their journey, they're not re-triggering people who might especially be at the beginning of their recovery process. And that's one of the tricky things about community, is that we did want to make space for everyone, regardless of where they're at in their journey, with the only prerequisite being that they've identified that they want to be on a recovery journey. So if we move, so that course will be something that comes later on. But for communities like this, where it's really important to establish a culture of and really specific behavior and really specific boundaries around the community, introducing those behaviors and ideas in an onboarding course is a really great idea. Next, we can move into this welcome group of spaces. So this just has some standard resources. We have a space where they can meet the team and practitioners who are on the recovery team. Here under Get Started, we have some really practical first steps to help orient members. They also receive all the information that we packed in to Get Started here, they do receive in onboarding emails as well. So we have 3 steps to get started, our community rules, Oops, Ouch, and Elmo. This was a tool that I've found from other communities on how to help members overcome misunderstandings, and especially in a community like this, it's really helpful. So I love this framework. I actually kind of stole it and modified it from a community called Startups for All. But Ouch is something when someone makes a hurtful statement, say ouch or comment ouch, let them know why. If you've done something that's harmful or triggering, say oops and do your best to apologize, and then enough, let's move on. So trying to not be like overcompensate or be over dramatic about the exchange, but let's move on to the next thing. So we felt like having something like this in place was going to be really important for this community when we do have people from so many different backgrounds and in so many different spots in their journey coming into the same place. We really wanted to give them some tools for how to overcome misunderstandings. We have an FAQs primarily for Circle, but the company can add FAQs that pop up consistently about the company or disordered eating or eating disorders. So resources, this is kind of like a blog style content space for the team to post resources as well as peer support resources. So, okay, this is probably for members to post resources that they recommend to other members. This community just launched, by the way, so it's really awesome to see the activity that they already have happening here, but don't be surprised if there's not a ton of activity in different places because it's just getting off the ground. So here we have a discussion space. So this is the primary space where members can interact and post. To begin with any community launch, I always recommend keeping this sidebar and especially like kind of the main community chat channels or spaces as simple as possible. You'll always add more over time, but I recommend starting with like a really small amount of channels that feel really full with good conversation, rather than dividing that conversation over like 15 different topic channels. So discussion is the main place where everything happens. Intros is a space for introductions. Asking a provider, they can ask a provider directly in this space, as well as an announcement space for the recovery team to post and member events. One other thing that's good to note is that with this community launch for this particular client, we wanted to actually test 2 different types of communities that would be hosted in the same space. And well, 2 different communities, but 2 different targets. So one was clients who we call members, and the other is who we call supporters. So these can be caregivers, family members, anyone who has someone in their life with an eating disorder or a disordered eating pattern who they want to support. And part of what we're testing with this initial launch is there a specific target that activates a little bit more easily in this community? So our theory was that supporters were actually going to be, because they tend to be asking for resources more consistently, we wanted to see if supporters would latch onto and join and like participate in the community experience. Our hunch was that they might participate more than members who are getting that one-on-one care, but we wanted to test both experiences and see where we saw the most activity. So the first 2 groups of spaces, members and journey updates, are for patients within the space. And journey updates is an area where it's a ritual that we're prompting members to participate in, where they post a weekly update on how things are going for them. And depending on which phase they identify in, and they would self-identify, they would post in that space. So someone who is reversing might be moving backwards. They are not making progress in the forward direction. That's okay. We wanted to make space for their journey. And then those who are recovering, who are moving forward, but still very much in the midst of like overcoming a lot of obstacles, and then recovered being a certain level of recovery that they might not think about their eating disorder or disordered eating patterns consistently. And so, but we still wanted to stay up to date with their updates as well. So we're testing out this space as an experiment to see how people use and adopt that ritual. But then we move into supporters. And so if you joined as like a parent of someone who has an eating disorder, you would join as a supporter. You would see the welcome space, and then you would only see supporters here. So we have intros where members can introduce themselves, a main discussion space, announcements, and then events. So all of this is very much in testing. The recovery team is watching to see how members act and behave within this community design and structure. But I hope you learned something about designing community spaces. And if you have any questions about this community or designing your own community, don't hesitate to reach out. I partner with clients all the time to look at their high-level strategy of their community as a greater ecosystem, as well as setting up all the practicalities of their platform like I did here in Circle.